What up, though? Britannica Online Encyclopedia. Black Panther. Comic strip superhero created for Marvel Comics by writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby. The character first appeared in Fantastic Four, number 52, July 1966. From Britannica.com. Marvel. Wakanda. Marvel.com. Before humans came to the land later known as Wakanda, a group of beings known as the originators lived there. War eventually broke out when the humans wanted more. A mysterious extraterrestrial element with kinetic energy absorbing properties, especially when it comes to sound. The people began exploring the phenomena, but began suffering from a kind of radiation poisoning, so the chieftain banned citizens from the Mina Gai, or Great Mound. He also established a panther cult to keep the curious away, protecting both the people and the resource in the process. This led to the birth of the Black Panther cult and that group's leader, the Black Panther. Again, let's go up. Let's do a sidebar for a second. A mysterious extraterrestrial element with kinetic energy absorbing properties. This is the Real Black Historian on Facebook. Once again, a mysterious extraterrestrial element with kinetic energy absorbing properties, especially when it comes to sound. The Real Historian, the Real Black Historian on Facebook. All individuals having melanin in excellence are blessed with the following capabilities. Melanin has the potential to transform solar energy, electromagnetic energy, electricity, microwaves, music, sound waves, radar waves, radio TV waves, thermal waves, X-rays, cosmic rays, and UV light into kinetic energy. Energy we derive from food for things like growth and bodily repairs without the need to eat. The Black Panther evolved back to Marvel. The Black Panther evolved to political and religious leader of the nation. The New York Times. Wakanda is a fake country, but the African language in Black Panther is real. By John Elligan, 2018. In Black Panther, which opens at theaters nationwide today, the filmmakers have used Xhosa, one of South Africa's official languages, to solidify the story's African authenticity. The setting is a fantastical African kingdom, Wakanda, a nation defiant of stereotypes with technology that outpaces the rest of the planet, and black superheroes who gamely defend their turf. The kingdom's official language, however, is anything but fantasy, Xhosa. To have our language incorporated in a story that big would be phenomenal, said Namla Mbawuli, a musician and native Xhosa speaker who lives in Johannesburg. It reinforces the importance of our culture, accepting our language and having pride in being Xhosa. She is nonetheless excited for her native tongue to get its moment in the spotlight, and she said she appreciates what it could mean to African Americans. As Black Americans, your origins are from Africa, she said. So you have every right to want to feel part of that in whatever way or form, and I think that this is a good example of that. As Black Americans, your origins, she's telling you as a Black American, as a what we term Black Americans, she's telling you your origins are from Africa. So you have every right to want to feel part of that in whatever way or form. And I think that this is a good example of that. Scratch, Black Panther, the African Wakanda. Hannah Ord, 2022. Offering Black audiences an optimistic glimpse of a proud future for Africa. The design of the movie and the comic book that inspired it owes a huge debt to Afrofuturism, an aesthetic and philosophical movement that aims to combine science fiction and African political theory to imagine a future for Africa and its diaspora. After centuries of struggle following colonialism, the slave trade, and structural racism, this movement aims to create a positive narrative for hope and prosperity. Ingrid Lafleur defined it as a way of imagining possible futures through a Black cultural lens. Since so much of how we perceive ourselves and our identity stems from media, such as movies and TV, having Black characters in worlds that go beyond racist stereotypes of the constant reminder of oppression is hugely important. The global outpouring of emotion following the release of the film is testament to this, as young Black children, whether in the USA or Uganda, get to finally see themselves represented in a context of prosperity, pride, and power in an international Hollywood hit. Temple.edu, Temple Now, Art and Culture, breaking down the hidden messages in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Timothy Welbeck, Associate Professor of Africology and African American Studies and the director for Temple University Center for Anti-Racism, breaks down the symbolism, themes, and deeper meanings that can be found in the Black Panther sequel. Y'all was doing that on a picture, remember? When Timothy Welbeck is not teaching Africology and African American Studies at Temple University, leading the development of the university's new Center for Anti-Racism, meeting with students or grading papers, he finds refuge from his busy academic life within the colorful pages of comic books. As an assistant professor who is constantly encouraging his students to look at things more deeply, he feels many are missing out on the magic that lies just beneath the surface of those neat rows of comic panels. To Welbeck, comic books are a mirrored version of our world, where there is freedom to explore and analyze the issues that plague us in the real world. So when Marvel Studios released the first Black Panther movie in 2018, he was understandably elated by the meticulous depictions of the film, writing for Why that the magnificence of Black Panther is in its reimagining of Africa. This representation of Wakanda defies the past representation of Africa that happened throughout modern pop culture. If you consider stories like Tarzan, Zulu Jungle Jitters from Looney Tunes, they depicted Africa in very primitive and debased ways, as if it was a land teeming with savages who were eating each other and living in the Dark Ages. Wakanda represents Africa in its fullest glory. In some ways, it's the Afrofuturist imagination of what Africa could be. Wakanda is the technologically advanced society, a kingdom that has never been conquered. We don't see patriarchy or sexism or racism in Wakanda. The women are fully actualized people. They're not props to advance storylines or secondary, ancillary characters. In a historical sense, both Black Panther films allude to real cultures and traditions from Kemet, Ethiopia, Mali, Ghana, and Songhai. Wakanda Forever is more than a phrase. It's a promise that a civilization can go forward in the face of unspeakable hardship and inescapable grief. Various historians have looked to see if there's significance in the Wakandan hand gesture, where they cross their wrists over their chests, but I haven't seen a consensus. Some scholars of the ancient African civilization of Kemet have noticed that there are various references to similar gestures in their hieroglyphics. Let's shake it. One of the persistent undercurrents of Wakanda Forever is the theme of colonialism. In the very beginning of the film, you see global powers calling on Wakanda, trying to hold them to their promise of sharing their vibranium resources with the world. Threats are aimed at Wakanda, and foreign entities try to steal the vibranium to create weapons of mass destruction. One of the most powerful characters in the film is Riri Williams and her Ironheart persona. In Riri's character, we see the real world plight of a young black woman in America. She grew up in Chicago. Her father and friend were victims of gun violence, and Riri herself almost becomes a victim of gun violence. And when the world eventually recognizes her genius, they throw her into the Massachusetts Institute of Technology so they can mine her mind for its power. My cousin named Riri. She's a black American woman in Africa for the first time. She's a black American woman in Africa for the first time. I'm not certain how much this is intentional, but one of the great parallels of our world and the Wakanda Forever world is how it mirrors the way in which black families oftentimes have to grapple with the loss of their patriarch. Ramonda, now the matriarch, was forced to face two unexpected, untimely deaths of the men in her family. She must resume the leadership of the nation, and her daughter, Shuri, must also step up to fill the void, as do the other women within the periphery. That mirrors so much of what we've seen in this country of black mothers across the country who've lost a son, who've lost a husband, who've lost a partner, reeling from that and having to piece together the fragments of their family. One of the things that Ramonda laments is that she lives in the most powerful nation in the world and could not protect her children. I imagine that there are many mothers across Philadelphia and across the country who have said the same thing. I live in the most powerful nation in the world and cannot protect my children from the perils that are outside of my home. This is a particularly unique experience to black people across the country who disproportionately face these various perils. This includes state-sanctioned violence, gun violence, more generally, and overexposure to C-19 that accelerated the pace of death for many. This includes state sanctioned violence, gun violence more generally, and overexposure to C-19 that accelerated the pace of death for many. State sanctioned violence. Please leave a comment if you have any idea what that means. And this was Ashley DeLuca. Actually, no, this is. I believe the third Black Panther movie will revisit these themes of rebuilding identity and embracing community and communal customs and the power of aligning with other people. That was Ashley DeLuca. ABHM, America's Black Holocaust Museum. Again, comment if you have any idea what that means. Bringing Our History to Light. Comment again if you know who our is in bringing our history to light. How Theodore Roosevelt and American democracy was influenced by Buganda, the real Wakanda. Buganda, the real Wakanda. Wakanda. abhmuseum.org. When former American President Theodore Roosevelt reached the East African kingdom of Buganda near the end of his epic 1909 safari, he expected to find more of what he already knew: exotic animals to hunt and an African landscape filled with wild savages, as he wrote in a letter to a friend. But what he discovered instead on that Christmas Eve was something extraordinary. One of the most politically and socially sophisticated monarchies in the world, a real-life kingdom that could have been a model for the fictional Wakanda. Buganda, geographically located near its Marvel counterpart in sub-Saharan East Africa, changed the course of American democracy. Buganda, geographically located near its Marvel counterpart in sub-Saharan East Africa, changed the course of American democracy. But Roosevelt was not the only person thinking about the kingdom of Buganda. W.E.B. Du Bois founded The Crisis in November 1910. It was the official publication of the NAACP. In the issue just before the election, the magazine featured Buganda and Kabaka Chwa, who was declared the magazine's Man of the Month. The NAACP presented Kabaka and Buganda as exemplars of black progress and citizenship. Buganda's black boy who is king rules over 4 million black folk in a territory as large as New England, New York, and Pennsylvania combined. Historians of the NAACP return to the deep past, showing readers and voters how the first modern king of Uganda ascended the throne about 1400 and was contemporary with Henry IV of England and Joan of Arc. The lessons were clear. Black historians were just as vast and complex. Black histories were just as vast and complex as anything in Europe or the New World. Buganda embodied black progress in a world of discriminating politics, and it was high time to claim a similar reality in America. AL.com. The Black Panther Party's Deep Alabama Roots, From Tent City to Black Power, by Connor Sheets. AL.com. Their lives rapidly began to change in the 1960s as the heroes of the civil rights movement broke barriers across Dixie, with Lowndes serving as one of the largely forgotten epicenters of their efforts. Lowndes would in the mid 1960s play host to the birth of the Black Panther Party. That Genesis story is well known by many who live in or near the county sandwiched between Selma and Montgomery, but it is often forgotten by the history books. The Lowndes black population's agitations of 1965 and 1966 at first left dozens of black residents homeless and marginalized, forced to live in makeshift encampments where they endured violent threats and attacks. But their courageous act sparked a revolution that would swiftly sweep the nation. Beginning in 1965, scores of fellow black Lowndes County residents in attending mass meetings at Mount Gillard Baptist Church off U.S. Route 80. Within the relatively safe confines of that humble country church, they absorbed lessons about the goals of the struggle for the equal rights and how to organize for change delivered via speeches by black civil rights leaders like Stokely Carmichael and Huey Newton. Today, these giants of civil rights history are remembered as two of the founding fathers of the Black Panther Party, which many believe originated in Oakland, California in October 1966. But the true roots of the Black Panther Party go back to the poor, rural county. Lowndes County first emerged as a civil rights nerve center in the summer of 1965, when a young Carmichael, who had recently coined the term Black Power and would go on to become a patriarch of the Black Panthers, was sent there by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, to attempt to register black voters. As part of this effort, Carmichael and the SNCC founded the Lowndes County Freedom Organization shortly after his arrival in the county in an attempt to register blacks to vote and nominate African American candidates for local office. It was the LCFO that first used the famous image of the coiled Black Panther that would go on to become the namesake of the National Black Panther Party. By August 6, 1965, when President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 into law, codifying the right of Americans of all races to vote, only about 250 of Lowndes County, more than 12,000 black residents, became registered voters. M4BL issue: Wakanda the Vote. Hashtag Wakanda the Vote, how activists are using Black Panther screenings to register voters. A nationwide voter registration campaign is turning the message of Black Panther into a political reality. By P.R. Lockhart, 2018. ABC News, hashtag Wakanda the Vote uses popularity of Black Panther to register voters. The activists have also launched hashtag Wrinkle the Vote Around A Wrinkle in Time by Murdy Nzanga. Denai Guerreri says she's moved by the global impact of Black Panther. The woman who started hashtag Wakanda the Vote to register voters at Black Panther screenings. Activist and organizer Kayla Reed shares how she and her co-organizers, Jessica Bird and Rukia Lumumba, started a massive voter registration campaign in over 100 cities. This is by Linda Yang. This is from Because of Them We Can. Hashtag Wakanda the Vote. These ladies launched a campaign to register voters at Black Panther screenings. At Black Panther showings, activists are registering voters. T'Challa's world and the huge crowds eager to visit it inspire a voter registration drive dubbed Wakanda the Vote by Gail Fashingbauer Cooper. St. Louis Public Radio. St. Louis activist uses Black Panther film to register voters by Chad Davis. Text Wakanda to 91990 to register the vote. Essence. A group of activists are registering voters at Black Panther screenings. A group of activists are registering voters at Black Panther screenings. By Sidney Scott. Text Wakanda to 91990 to register the vote. The vote for whom? Hashtag Wakanda the Vote takes Black Panther beyond entertainment and into politics by Adam Pakros. Mail online. Black Americans are targeted at Black Panther screenings to sign up to vote by registration movement dubbed Wakanda the Vote. Kayla Reed, Jessica Bird, and Rukia Lumumba are working through the Electoral Justice Project to make registering to vote easier for Black people. By Stephanie Haney. Global Citizen, real world superheroes are registering voters at Black Panther screenings across the country. Wearing Wakanda-inspired outfits, these heroes are rocking the vote. Phineas Ruckert. Exclusive, these Black women launched hashtag Wakanda the Vote to register voters at Black Panther screenings everywhere. Tanya Renee Stidham. Daily Cause. While Black Panther draws record-breaking crowds, this group is at theaters to register new voters. Jessica Sutherland. Hashtag Wakanda the Vote drive signs up voters at Black Panther screenings. Lisa Gutierrez. Activists set up voter registration events at Black Panther screenings. Rachel DeSantis. These activists are registering voters at Black Panther showings. Julie Muncie. At Screen Rant. Activists organize Black Panther registration drive to hashtag Wakanda the Vote. The Electoral Justice Project hopes to turn Black Panther fans into registered voters with their new hashtag Wakanda the Vote campaign. By Matt Morrison, 2018. Revolt. An activist group is setting up voter registration booths at Black Panther screenings. Casey Orcutt. Activists are registering voters at Black Panther screenings for hashtag Wakanda the Vote. Heather Dockeray. This is from Mashable. The Atlanta Voice. Black Panther inspires Wakanda the Vote by Clarissa Hamlin, News One. Black Panther begets political action beyond the big screen. Angela Helm. Activists launch voter registration drive at Black Panther screenings. This is from Black Voices. The movement for Black Lives has channeled the energy and excitement surrounding the opening weekend of Marvel's Black Panther into a voting registration campaign. The movement's Electoral Justice Project is organizing the hashtag Wakanda the Vote initiative that encourages moviegoers to register to vote at Black Panther screenings across the country. Participants host their own events, dressing up in Wakanda-inspired outfits as they recruit potential voters. By Philip Lewis. Refinery 29. Hashtag Wakanda the Vote is a movement to register voters at Black Panther screenings by Marquita Harris. As Black Panther fever hits theaters across the nation this weekend, a group of clever black women decided to use this movement to work on a great cause, voter registration. Man, you going to see a movie, and these clever women is going to figure out a way to get you to vote. Yahoo News. Black Panther activist group launches black voter registration effort at film screenings. Humberto Gonzalez. Complex. Activists set up voter registration booths at Black Panther screenings to hashtag Wakanda the Vote. Victoria Johnson. Nation. The Wake Up. Wakanda the Vote. Jamaican bobsled team coach on some petty mess. Betty DeVos says, option to arm teachers. Be a superhero at midterm elections. Black Panther inspires Wakanda the Vote by Clarissa Hamlin. Black voters, this is from The Hill. Black voter registration effort launched at Black Panther screenings. Avery Anapole. Ebony. Hashtag Wakanda the Vote allows for voter registration at Black Panther screenings. By Zahara Hill. Heat Vision. Black Panther inspires voter registration effort. Hashtag Wakanda the Vote. Mia Galupo. The Cut. Activists across the country are launching voter registration drives at Black Panther screenings. By Amanda Arnold. Let's shake it. New York State College of Agriculture at Cornell University, Ithaca, New York. The Professor Dwight Sanderson Rural Sociology Library. Man, Past and Present by A.H. Keene, 1920. Cambridge, at the University Press, 1920. Miss Hingston Quiggin is responsible for the whole work of revision with the exception of Chapter 11, revised by Miss Lillian Whitehouse, while Dr. A.C. Hatton has criticized, corrected, and supervised the work throughout. October 10th, 1919. Contents. Chapter 10, The American Aborigines. Chapter 11, The American Aborigines Continued. Chapter 10, The American Aborigines. Man, Past and Present. Religious conceptions were based on a belief in Wakanda, or Manito, an all-pervading spirit force, involved various shamanistic ceremonials consisting of dancing, chanting, feasting, and fasting. Most distinctive of these is the sun dance practiced by almost all the tribes of the plains. Who are we talking about here again? Chapter 10, The American Aborigines. Religious conceptions were based on a belief in Wakanda. Wakanda is the term employed when the power believed to animate all natural forms is spoken to or spoken of in supplications or rituals by many tribes of the Siouan family. Manito is the Algonquin name for the mysterious and unknown potencies and powers of life and of the universe. Again, this is the chapter, The American Aborigines. The Dakota and Sioux are universally conceded to be of the highest type, physically, mentally, and probably morally, of any of the Western tribes. Their physical characteristics are as follows. Now, these are the people who we're referring to, the American, when we are talking about this particular part of the American Aborigines, or these particular American Aborigines. The religious conceptions were based on a belief in Wakanda. Who believed this? Well, some of the people who believe this, the Dakota or Sioux, are universally conceded to be of the highest type physically, mentally, and probably morally of any of the Western tribes. Their physical characteristics are as follows: dark skin, faintly tinged with red. Native American gardening, for lack of a better term, Native American gardening, stories, projects, and recipes for families. Michael J. Caduto and Joseph Brucac, Native American gardening. And we've already spoken about these particular, the Dakota and Sioux. Their physical characteristics are as follows: dark skin, faintly tinged with red. Native American gardening. Surely, said the wisest of the elders, this is a gift from Wakanda, the great mystery. Native American gardening. Wakanda, he said, if this plant is a gift to us, I thank you for this blessing. This book is from 1919. The corn that comes as a gift from Wakanda, the great mystery, has 4 colors of kernels: red, white, yellow, and blue. Red, white, yellow, and blue. This is from city-data.com. This is a map of America, North America, USA. As you can see, it says Wakanda, Illinois. Wakanda, Illinois. This is from TopoZone. Wakanda Park topo map in Dunn County, Wisconsin. Y'all see that? By Lake Menomin or Menomin, Lake Menomin, the bluish portion. Can you see near the middle of this map? It says Wakanda Park. This is in Dunn County, Wisconsin. Wisconsin First Nations. Upper Wakanda Park Mound Group. Wakanda Park Mound. Visit the Upper Wakanda Park Mound Group. In this small highlighted section, you can see Wakanda Water Park, Wakanda Park Beach, Wakanda Park. And this is not a complex setup to promote the movie. Wakanda Park Beach, this has been there. Go look. Go turn the laptop, turn the TV, turn your phone off. Go get in your car, take the bus, take the train, go look. Wakanda Park Mounds, Upper Wakanda Group, National Register of Historic Places. Located in Wakanda Park in Menominee on the shores of Lake Menominee, this group is what's left of once large cluster of mounds that were submerged when Lake Menominee was created by damming Red Cedar River. Out of 17 submerged mounds, 14 were excavated by archaeologists. Some of the mounds contain burials, including an individual wearing clay mask. The feather, the feature found in only two other mound sites in Wisconsin. So they excavated the mounds, which were burials, similar to how the people you term Egyptologists raid tombs in Egypt. Wakanda Lake and Glen Elder State Park, Glen Elder, Kansas. And you thought it wasn't nothing in Kansas. Wakanda Springs. Based on fact and legend, Wakanda Lake inherited its name from a prominent historical site called Wakanda Springs, which was located about halfway between Glen Elder and Cawker City, 3/4 of a mile south of old U.S. Highway 24. The mineral springs was an interesting phenomenon on the plains of north central Kansas. Its pool basin was set in a 300-foot wide mound, rising 40 feet above the surrounding Solomon River Valley. The water contained calcium, magnesium, iron, silica, sodium chloride, sulfate, and bicarbonate. The mineral springs around which the legend evolved was once a ceremonial gathering place sacred to all the Plains Indians. Later, it became a health resort for the white man until Lake Wakanda covered the site. According to learned sources, the word Wakanda with a K was actually a word used by the Kanza Indians to denote the supernatural, roughly translated Great Spirit. Later, as more white men settled the area, the name Wakanda with the C became the standard spelling of the word. The Indians believed the water to have healing powers. Practically every Indian tribe visited the site at one time or another, including the Pawnee, Wichita, Kaw, Kiowa, Sioux, Arapaho, Comanche, the Miami, the Crow, and others. Wakanda Springs Sanitarium, or as Scarface used to say, sanitarium, sanitarium. From the facts gathered regarding the early history of Wakanda Springs, it is learned that the first white man to visit this historic spot for Sir William Johnson in the spring of 1767. The first recorded Kansas history dealing with Wakanda Springs tells of the visit by General Zebulon Pike in the year 1814. During his visit, he learned of what the Indians called the Great Spirit Spring. Pike altered his route and visited Wakanda Springs on his way to Colorado, where he discovered Pike's Peak. History recalls a man named Burnham who established a bottling works on the site and started the sale, and later, history recalls a man named Burnham who established a bottling works on the site and started the sale and distribution of Wakanda Flyer, which became known simply as Wakanda Water. Burnham raised the interest of a man by the name of McWilliams as an Eastern capitalist who in turn invested in the site. In addition, in 1884, he constructed the stone structure in which the sanitarium group started. It was completed 10 years later. For several years, the place operated as a hotel and resort, the proprietor being G.W. Cooper. During this time, the distribution of Wakanda Flyer extended to all parts of the country. A respected hydrologist inspected the springs and testified that it was the only one like it in the world. The future owner of the site, Dr. Carl Bengesser, a member of the Intelligence Department of the United States Army, visited Wakanda Springs around Thanksgiving time in 1906. Missouri State Parks. Missouri State Parks. Wakanda State Park. The clear water of Wakanda State Park's 6 lakes attract thousands of migratory waterfowl each year, making the park a bird lover's paradise. The lakes also offer anglers a chance to catch largemouth bass, bluegill, crappie, and catfish. 2 of the lakes have boat ramps, making it ever easier to get into the water. A swimming beach provides a great place to cool off, and campsites make the park a perfect place to stay for a while. Do the right thing.